Hey there, this is Jexy with the Systems Alliance, and in this video we're gonna keep continuing into the fiasco that is Diablo Immortal and Blizzard's just absolute debacle and terrible presentation, their reaction to it, everything. But someone who's very familiar with them decided to chime in, and we definitely thank him for doing so. So the person to chime in is, of course, Mark Kern, and he was the producer for Diablo 2, and he was on the team that created World of WarCraft. So obviously kind of knows the inner workings of Blizzard, or at least how they used to be. And he had a whole series of tweets out, and I just want to go over them because it provides some great insight and really speaks to the heart of the entire thing. He says, since I was a producer on Diablo 2, a lot of people have been asking for my thoughts on the whole Diablo Immortal Fiasco. I hate to say it, but what you are seeing is Blizzard not understanding gamers anymore. So right off the bat, 1 for 1 there. There's nothing wrong with having a mobile version of Diablo. In fact, I would have wanted one as an option, but the way it was hinted at and presented, and the failure of Blizzard management to predict the backlash caught me by surprise. Blizzard used to be really gamer driven. And that's another thing I want to point out. I don't care if there's a Diablo mobile game, as long as we have Diablo console games, whatever it is, as long as we can still play Diablo or have something interesting, or not just Diablo, StarCraft, WarCraft, whatever it is, you still have to please your main base, your core fans. You can't just present to a bunch of core fans something that they're not interested in and not know why there's a backlash. Blizzard coyly played up the Diablo hype, which is a good move, but failed to anticipate that their PC-based audience was going to expect, well, a PC-based announcement. And following up all of that hype with a different product is a huge bait and switch feeling moment. And that's another thing. I mean, I found out that bait and switch is technically a legal term, but I've experienced it with buying a car. I mean, you go in there expecting one thing, then they bait and switch you. I mean, you're pretty pissed off. But at least with a car, it's just me. You know, they're not in front of an entire audience of me's. At that point, they'd be lucky to get out of there alive. Blizzard has said now that they are working on multiple Diablo projects. They really should have dropped a teaser for their PC-based project alongside their mobile announcement if that's the case. Exactly. If you have it ready to go, then why not release it? Why would you hide that? That wouldn't do you any good. As I said in a previous video, you could have made this entire fiasco, the back and forth between the audience members, just a footnote if at the end you throw up a Diablo 4 picture. That's all you needed. But what is really telling is that this surprised them. They were expecting backlash, but they didn't have a plan for it. They didn't predict the wave. Any Diablo gamer could have simply told you what would happen if you asked. And that was my whole point with that they should hire this guy who asked the question.
Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
Because clearly they need someone on their team in a decision-making management role to tell them how people are going to react. The fact that they're so disconnected they don't even know anymore just shows like, okay, they got a real problem here. Mark Kern goes on to say, Blizzard never used to have to ask because it was made up of hardcore gamers from top to bottom. We used to say that we were our own harshest audience for our games. I would have had a line of devs outside my door telling me that this was a bad move. And that's the other thing. I mentioned this in my video, maybe we should call more Activision than Blizzard now, and the fact that they didn't see this coming shows exactly that. Blizzard, the Blizzard that we all knew and loved and grew up with, they would know. As he said, he would know, and everyone there would know, and they wouldn't let someone get away with that internally. But now, they have no clue. He says the fact that Blizzard was A, unprepared for this reaction, and B, had no plans to mitigate it, even knowing some of it was coming, is a great disappointment to me. It smacks of, yeah, well, suck it down. And that, of course, reminds me of how EA treats their fans. This isn't a toxic gamer issue. It's not an entitlement issue. It's just bad PR handling and a bad culture on the part of Blizzard. I'm sad to say, it's a culture that says, we know better, and fits right in with, you think you know, but you don't. Once again, exactly how EA does their stuff, and he's sad because he doesn't want to be like EA, he's a gamer. But it looks like Blizzard is turning into just another EA. Maybe you don't know better anymore, Blizzard. Maybe you've really lost touch with gamers, and you are now in some billion-dollar-a-year ivory tower. That needs some reflection on your part, because that's how big businesses fail. Remember Nokia? Remember Blockbuster Video? Now the one thing I'll say to that is those companies failed to adapt. Blizzard's adapting. They're just doing it in the wrong way. They're still making money. They're just going after it the wrong way with mobile. I mean, like I said, you can still have a mobile game, but sacrificing your main fans to go after the quick, easy buck, which, by the way, if you implement too many microtransactions, implement a little bit too many loot boxes in there, the gambling mechanisms that really make those mobile games a lot of money, you might be shut down, and then maybe by that time you will have forgotten how to make real games. And at that point, that's when you go the way of Nokia and Blockbuster. Today's devs need to talk to gamers all the time. Game development has gotten so big, it's easy to lose touch. Many devs stop playing games as they start making them professionally. You need to make an effort to connect and tear down the corporate wall to get to know your audience. Once again, this is huge, and apparently it used to be done, so the fact that it's not being done anymore is pretty worrisome, and this can happen to any sort of company, but especially with gaming, where your audience is so important, because if you screw up, the backlash is so bad. One of the things he does say is, and I like how Blizzard isn't blaming their customers yet, but say they are passionate. That's pretty good so far, but an apology and a PC reveal would be better. They're busy with the BlizzCon wind down, but I hope to see a better response after all of this. Yeah, they could use a better response after all of this. And apparently a bunch of mainstream game journalists, I mean, that term is interesting, but they're blaming gamers, of course, because they're corporate shills. That's it. I mean, there's a reason why game journalism, game reviews aren't respected like movie reviews are. I mean, even movie reviews, of course, they have their own issues, but that Rotten Tomatoes score, I mean, generally well respected. That Metacritic score, generally well respected. But game reviews? You put out a piece of crap and hit 7 out of 10. I mean, you never see, 2 out of 10s, 3 out of 10s. I mean, maybe a couple times if the game's really bad. But even AAA titles where the gamer score is like a 3 or a 4, maybe even a 2, they'll still be in the 80s or 90s because there's this huge disconnect. They just have to like it so they can keep getting money from the game corporation so they can keep reviewing their games. And he says, as for mainstream game journalists, they are blaming gamers. And so are a lot of know-nothing devs in mobile and indie. To them I say, be prepared to lose a lot of customers and money, because it's never right to blame your customers for your own PR blunders and learn nothing. And that's huge. Anyone in business needs to know that if the backlash is like this, you've done something wrong. Don't blame someone else. Take responsibility, learn from your mistakes, correct them, and do better. So it was great to hear Mark Kern, a true Blizzard great, speak on this, but let me know your thoughts on his comments. Personally, I think they were spot on, but do you? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we'll catch you later.